The Empress is an archetype of feminine power. She represents active movement towards realization and has an esoteric meaning of creativity. Hello, I'm Michael J. Auger, creator of the Allcento Tarot, and today let's take a closer look at the third card of the Tarot's Major Arcana. A single point represents the concept of all things united. 2 points represent the idea of duality. In order for the united all to know itself, it must divide itself. And although this is necessary, the division is an illusion. However, with 3 points, abstract ideas can now be envisioned. With 3 points, a shape can now be creatively formed, which allows us to communicate abstract ideas. And Pythagoras, he was a big fan of the triangle. The Empress of the Visconti-Sforza holds a shield decorated with a black eagle, a heraldic device of the Visconti family that the Sforzas later adopted. The third arcana, the Empress, wears a royal robe with 3 diamond rings in a repeating pattern. Although 3 interlocking rings are another heraldic device of the Sforzas, I personally love that they are in groups of 3. In the tarot, the Empress comes before the Emperor. I personally think an important reason for this is due to the number 3 being associated with the idea of creativity. And while creativity is not exclusive to women, it is the mother who not only encompasses the physical act of bearing children, but also provides the first expressions of protection, nurturing care, and love. Another way to explain why the Empress comes before the Emperor is that in trick-taking games, the number 4 outranks the 3. However, I prefer explaining the order due to numerological correspondences. Of course, we have no way of knowing for sure if esoteric ideas were encoded into these cards from the very beginning, but tarot cards certainly are useful and easy to use to teach spiritual concepts. On an esoteric level, the higher the number, the lower the correspondence to the material plane. At least until the middle of the loop where we start corresponding once again to higher levels of spirituality. Early woodblock Marseille-style versions of this card also emphasize the idea of creativity. Many have speculated that her prominent belly may suggest the Empress is pregnant. Also, the back of the throne on which the Empress sits has been creatively seen by many as wings. There are no limits to the imagination. She lovingly embraces both her royal scepter and shield, unlike the Emperor, who has these things at a distance. This suggests that she understands that one can catch more flies with honey rather than vinegar. She rules in a more loving manner, using subtle suggestion to convince her willingly devoted subjects. She's able to strip her enemies of power in a way in which they feel she's blessed them. Esotericist and tarot creator Oswald Wirth wrote that this arcana represents creative intelligence, the mother of form, pictures, and ideas. Wirth's depiction of the Empress includes unmistakable heavenly wings, and encircling her face are stars, a link to the zodiac. She rests her foot on a crescent moon, which is a connection to the High Priestess. The spiritual idea of pure unity is limitless and impossible to comprehend until it is divided into dualities by the High Priestess so that we can compare and contrast. But in doing so, a veil of illusion is lowered. To draw our minds out of this state of confusion, we must rely on the help of the Empress. The spiritual path is not found through separation and comparison, but instead discovered through creative emotion and love. The Empress grants us the understanding of fixed ideas with ideal forms, shielding us from constant, mutable, and mysterious, unpredictable change, and allowing us the enlightenment to see clearly and have mastery over the material. In the version of this card created by Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith, the Empress sits on a throne with pillows in a field of grain, with a waterfall in the background. These are all symbols of fertility. Her dress is decorated with pomegranates, a link to the High Priestess, and she wears a crown of stars, a connection to the divine. The Empress is the universal mother figure, whose womb we must be born of. She represents the physical manifestation of the divine will and imagination. Waite describes her as the inferior Garden of Eden, the earthly paradise, all that is symbolized by the visible house of man. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn referred to this archetype as the daughter of the mighty ones, and made the correspondence to the Hebrew letter Daleth. Daleth means door, and the garden of the Empress can be thought of as a door or entrance into this life, and an exit to the world beyond. Her shield has the symbol of Venus, the goddess of beauty and love. This is the only planetary symbol that can be used to link all of the Sephiroth on the Tree of Life together. The doctrine implied is that love is the fundamental principle of the entire universe. In the version of this card created by Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris, the Empress looks as if she is nurturing an invisible infant. The way she holds her arms forms a shape close to the alchemical symbol for salt. In the Book of Thoth, Crowley wrote, "She combines the highest spiritual with the lowest material qualities. For this reason, she is fitted to represent one of the three alchemical forms of energy." Salt is one of these three forms, with mercury and sulfur being the other two. Alchemically speaking, salt is the inactive part of nature, the womb of the Empress, that must be stimulated by sulfur, represented by the Emperor, to maintain the equilibrium of the universe. Two crescent moons to either side of the Empress symbolize the balance of opposites. In her right hand, she holds a watery blue lotus flower over her heart that symbolizes universal love. On the bottom left of this card is seen a pelican feeding its young with blood from its own heart. This symbol of self-sacrifice represents the Aeon of Osiris. On the bottom right of this card is a shield with a pure white double-headed eagle representing the new Aeon of Horus, which Crowley saw the world transitioning into. The main idea of this card is that it's an expression of a creative gateway to heaven, but because of its dazzling beauty, this meaning can be lost. It is said that in no other card is it so necessary to disregard the parts and focus on the whole. In the Allcento tarot, my illustration of the Empress was inspired by Venus as depicted by Botticelli, hair blowing seductively in the gentle wind. She is clothed with the sun, a reference to Revelation 12 in the Bible. Her fertility is emphasized by a waterfall, ripening crops, and her pregnant belly. Similar to Oswald Wirth's version, she rests her foot on a crescent moon, symbolizing the secret mysteries of creation that have been passed down to her from the High Priestess. Her crown of stars, representing the zodiac, is a link to the celestial space on which the material world is based. She holds a scepter topped with a globe, representing her dominion over the material. And to her side, an eagle stretches its wings of desire. On her shield is the symbol of Venus within a red heart, both within a creative golden triangle. And she gazes lovingly to the right to the unseen emperor, who I will discuss further in my next video. Be sure to subscribe so you can be notified when I post that. And in the meantime, please visit my website, offbeatartwork.com, to learn more about me and my Allcento tarot. Until next time, brightest blessings on your spiritual journey.